U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry makes an unannounced visit to Somalia. How the Kingdom of Lesotho is combating an emerging AIDS crisis. And say hello to Her Royal Highness, Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana of Cambridge. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Lenore Moudou. Vincent McCory is off today. This is Africa 54. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has wrapped up a historic visit to Somalia that included talks with the country's president and other top officials. Secretary Kerry traveled Tuesday from Nairobi to Mogadishu, becoming the first sitting U.S. Secretary of State to visit the East African nation. He spent about 3.5 hours in the capital, Mogadishu. Kerry's visit was not publicly announced by U.S. officials in advance. For more details on Secretary Kerry's visit to Somalia, VOA State Department correspondent Pam Dawkins joins us live via Skype from Nairobi, Kenya. Pam, this was a big show of support to the Somali government, right? What is the significance of this trip?
Yes, actually it was. As you mentioned, the State Department tried to keep the trip under wraps for security concerns. The President, the Prime Minister, and regional leaders met with Secretary of State Kerry. He also had an opportunity to meet with members of civil society in Mogadishu, and this included Somali peace activist Fartoon Adnan and Young African Leaders Fellows.
So why now for a Secretary of State to make this visit to Somalia?
The U.S. has been gradually stepping up its engagement with Somalia. Ahead of the trip, senior State Department officials said the trip would be a bid to show support for Somalia's progress and to also thank regional countries that have combined taken part in the African Union peacekeeping mission to fight al-Shabaab in Somalia. Secretary Kerry said that Somalis had made great progress. He said that he was visiting the country because the country is turning around. He called Somalis resilient and said they were people who were determined to reclaim their country and their future from terrorists.
And Mr. Kerry met with the President and the Prime Minister. What were some highlights of this discussion?
Some of the highlights of the discussions, in addition to talks about counterterrorism and talking about the role of the Somali government, some of the highlights were the fact that Kerry also had an opportunity to meet with a wide range of people during his relatively short visit. In addition to meeting with regional leaders, he met with political activists and also young people.
So what is the big takeaway from this visit, really?
The big takeaway is that it's part of a broader U.S. effort to engage with Somalia. Back in February, President Barack Obama announced that he had nominated Catherine Danini to serve as the first U.S. ambassador to Somalia since 1991. And if confirmed, she will initially work out of Kenya, but will make frequent trips to Somalia as part of the U.S. effort to engage with Somalia.
And finally, Pam, what's next on Secretary Kerry's agenda?
We leave from here in Kenya early tomorrow and travel to Djibouti. There, the Secretary of State will focus largely on the role that Djibouti has played in helping with the evacuation of foreigners out of Yemen. Quite a few of the Americans who've been in Yemen have used Djibouti, have used Djibouti as their initial stop-off point before returning to the United States. Part of the visit is for the Secretary to thank the government for its support. From there, Secretary of State Kerry travels to Saudi Arabia, where he will hold talks on regional security, and then he goes to Paris for a Gulf Cooperation Council meeting.
Busy agenda there. Pam, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're quite welcome.
And that was VOA State Department correspondent Pam Dawkins reporting live via Skype from Nairobi, Kenya. Now, since 2011, when a military campaign against al-Shabaab militants began making progress, members of the Somalia diaspora community have returned to open hospitals, schools, and other businesses. Abdulaziz Bilo in Mogadishu profiles the owner of a chain of hotels and restaurants who is helping to bring change to the once deadly Somali capital.
Along the Somali coastline sits the Jazeera Beach Hotel, one of the finest beach resorts in Mogadishu. It is part of the village hotel and restaurant chain owned by Ahmed Jama. Originally from Britain, many in Somalia now refer to him as Ahmed Village because of his thriving businesses. A chef by profession, Ahmed enjoys cooking for his ever-increasing customers. He recalls the risks he took coming back to invest in a country once regarded as a failed state.
When I left my restaurant business in London, everyone was surprised. When I opened up a hotel at Jazeera Beach, everyone was also surprised. But now it's evident that all who have followed my lead and invested back home have changed the narrative, and we look forward to more developments for Somalia in the near future.
With Somalia's thriving fishing industry, Ahmed's clientele are assured of a good meal at any of his chain of hotels across the capital. A major source of employment, Ahmed has hired scores of Somalis to work at his establishments.
In this restaurant alone, I have 58 employees. At least 20 others work at my other restaurant in Hawatako. I have employed more than 100 people in Mogadishu alone. I have opened up a beach restaurant in Hobyo that has more than 20 employees. This is something I hope to expand all across the country if security prevails.
Ahmed's restaurants in Mogadishu have been attacked numerous times by extremists. But this has not deterred Ahmed, who instead urges other Somalis in the diaspora to return home.
It is human beings who create both conflict and peace. So as to develop Somalia, we shouldn't be afraid. It is wise if we come back and invest here instead of elsewhere. Those you offer employment opportunities will help in creating peace and stability. The instability and challenges will come to an end one day. So it is best if we stay and invest here.
In 2013, the Somali government launched the Office for the Diaspora Affairs. The agency has been holding a series of conferences with Somalis across the globe in a bid to increase their involvement with the East African nation. Ahmed Jama's case is an example of the brave hearts who have returned to Somalia and are slowly changing a nation that was once marred in anarchy but is now slowly settling down and reviving. Abdul Aziz Bilo for VOA News, Mogadishu.
During his trip to Somalia, Mr. Kerry met with several government ministers. One of them is Foreign Minister Abdisalam Adliye Omer. Minister Omer joins us live via Skype from Mogadishu. Welcome to Africa 54, Mr. Minister.
Yes, ma'am.
So would you please tell us the significance of Secretary Kerry's visit to Somalia for the people of Somalia and also the government?
It was a very significant visit. It was a very historic visit. As you indicated before, it's the first time that a sitting Secretary of State came to Somalia. It was a major support for the Somali people and the Somali government and the regional government. It was a support for our journey to Vision 2016. And also, we have certain things that we have agreed on, and we're looking forward to its implementation.
Speaking of that, you along with two other ministers met with Secretary Kerry. Could you share with us some of the concerns that you expressed to him?
We have expressed that we need to upgrade and support the Somali National Army. We also, at the same time, told them that we are grateful to the support of the United States and other countries and support of our brothers and sisters from AMISOM. But we need to have our own Somali National Army and upgrade that and ratchet up and bring it to an army that's composed of all Somalis from different factions and different regions. And he agreed with that. We have also talked about support for our Vision 2016, as I have indicated it, that there will be a change regardless of anything in September 2016, that the representation will be more than it was 2 years ago. We also talked about the refugees in Kenya, in Dadaab. And we have agreed that, of course, nobody wants to be a refugee for 20 years.
Absolutely.
They should return home, but they should return home legally and in an orderly manner, and they have to be safe, and their human rights should be safeguarded.
Now, there were some talks about elections next year. How feasible will this be given the current situation with the insecurity and also Al-Shabaab?
There are targets or there are tasks to be completed in order to get to the end of this government tenure, and we are working very, very hard on those targets. For example, this week we will have and send, the government will send to the parliament the names of the Electoral Commission. And then next to that will be the Boundaries Commission. And we are working very hard to create all the states to form the federal government and the federal structure. So we are working hard to reach. We will decide what type of electoral process is possible, but we need to complete these tasks.
Oh.
And we have commitment to do that.
Okay, Minister Omer, thank you so much for joining us today from Mogadishu.
Thank you.
And our thanks to Somali Foreign Minister Abdisalam Aldiye Omer for joining us live via Skype from Mogadishu. Now, before visiting Somalia Tuesday, Secretary Kerry and other U.S. and Kenyan officials discussed ways to broaden counterterrorism strategies in the wake of Islamist militant attacks in East Africa. Again, here is VOA State Department correspondent Pam Dawkins.
A month ago, an al-Shabaab attack on students and teachers at Kenya's Garissa University College killed nearly 150 people. After talks in Nairobi with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and other officials, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry offered condolences and said border security and law enforcement were only part of the equation in fighting terrorists.
The even larger imperative is to persuade and prevent people, particularly young people, from joining such groups as Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, and Daesh.
Kerry said a successful strategy to defeat groups like al-Shabaab depends on building trust between authorities and local communities.
That includes members of Kenya's Muslim community, who were among the first to march against the terrorists in Garissa. And it also includes Somali refugees in Kenya, who are here, after all, because they fled from and despise al-Shabaab.
But Kenya has to ensure it is adopting approaches to confront al-Shabaab that do not alienate members of its communities, says longtime U.S. diplomat Johnny Carson, a former U.S. ambassador to Kenya.
It has to be sharp, laser-like, and surgical. The country should be careful not to alienate its Muslim citizen population who contribute so much to the diversity, vitality, and health of Kenya.
The U.S. has provided training and equipment to missions to fight al-Shabaab and also carried out drone strikes in the region. But a military defeat of the group would not mean a total defeat, says the Atlantic Council's Africa Center Director Peter Fong.
The movement has transformed itself from less a territorial entity seeking to control parts of Somalia into a transnational terrorist entity, which has to be fought not with purely military means, but also police, intelligence, and also social, economic, and political development and inclusion.
While in Kenya, Kerry also announced Washington would contribute an additional $45 million to support United Nations refugee operations in Kenya. Some Kenyan officials have expressed concern that al-Shabaab has used the country's Dadaab refugee camp to launch attacks in Kenya. Pam Dawkins, VOA News, Nairobi.
The Islamic State militant group is claiming responsibility for Sunday's attack on a convention center outside Dallas, Texas, where a contest for cartoons depicting Islam's prophet Muhammad was taking place. The extremist group made the announcement Tuesday on its radio station, saying 2 of the soldiers of the caliphate carried out the attack in the city of Garland. Police have identified the perpetrators as Elton Simpson and Nadir Sufi. The pair opened fire on the conference center, wounding a security guard before they were shot and killed by Garland police officers. Court documents show that Simpson had been under surveillance since 2006 and convicted in 2010 of lying to FBI agents about his desire to join violent jihad in Somalia. Now, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, combating an AIDS crisis in Lesotho. Stay with us.
I wanted to present music and a side of American culture that is most important to me, that is a part of who I am. They're going to get some incredible performances. That's one of the things I love, bringing these artists in so you can get to see them do what they do. It's soul music, and that's what music is. It's that which comes from the soul.
Welcome back. AIDS has become a major concern in Lesotho. It has contributed to the drop of life expectancy in the country. But the government and its development partners are doubling efforts to bring a change to the alarming situation. VOA's Khalil Gay recently returned from Lesotho and has more.
The mountains in the outskirts of Buta district in Lesotho. Sita Ramanaman is what they call a herd boy. He follows the cattle and takes care of the herd. His country, Lesotho, the only country in the world resting entirely above 1,000 meters, is the highest country in the world and deserves its nickname of Mountain Kingdom. On the other side of the country, in the mountains of Sonankeng, Palesa has a 7-month-old baby. When she was pregnant, she discovered that she was HIV positive. Her husband died last year in August, but fortunately, her baby is AIDS-free. Palesa and Sita Ramanaman are both young in this country, rocked by the deadly association of poverty and HIV and AIDS and co-epidemics such as tuberculosis. Today, Lesotho has the second highest adult HIV and AIDS prevalence in the world at 23.2%. with an estimated 62 new HIV infections daily. 50 people die from AIDS-related illnesses each day. The reasons?
Maybe because the country are not being able to tackle new infection. Maybe the coverage of treatment. Maybe all the HIV positive person are not accessing to treatment.
We haven't really managed to reduce the numbers. We certainly went wrong somewhere, hence the new infections that we're having in the country, the high numbers that have just gone out of control, and it's a cause for concern.
But efforts are being made, and NGOs like Help Lesotho and LLPA, Lesotho Planned Parenthood Association, with the support of UNFPA, are working to reach out to people in the most remote areas. But Sita Ramanaman, the herd boy, and Palesa now have access to the rights of young people, including the right to accurate information and services related to sexuality and reproductive health.
I know that the results are not at the level of expectation for the moment. The target is still small. limited to 1-2 districts, but the results are good. The results are really carrying a lot of hope.
I think that the country really is trying to educate people about HIV and AIDS.
So yeah, enough has been done. It's just up to us now to what we do with the information.
Today, the information is getting more and more to the grassroots levels. Not only people are better informed on HIV and AIDS, but also they're learning to live with it.
For more perspective on the HIV situation in Lesotho, Khalil Gay joins me in the studio. Hello, Khalil.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Listen, you just returned not long ago. The situation seems to be very serious, according to your report.
Yes, it is indeed a very alarming situation. And the situation has been worsened by the fact that recently figures are saying that Lesotho is the second highest HIV prevalence in the world, coming behind Swaziland, which is 26%. That is really serious.
Very, very serious. Listen, Queen says so in the report, talked about, she said, and I quote, "We failed somewhere." What did you see in terms of the general sentiment as to where they fell, where the government or the health officials fell?
You know, since 2006, Lesotho has really developed one of the world's most ambitious programs in the fight against AIDS. You know, $26 million was put into the fight. And Lesotho had what they called the National AIDS Commission, NAC. That commission was disbanded a few years ago because it revealed to be very costly and really being a taxpayer's money. And because that commission moved really from its original mission to really a big burden. So now a new prime minister has been appointed and the government is putting together what they called the LEHA, which is the Lesotho HIV and AIDS Authority. And this new body is really getting together, gathering all the tools to coordinate the action of the development partners in the fight against AIDS in this country.
So really putting a special emphasis on it. Now, do you think that the population is really in tune as to the impact of the HIV/AIDS on women, men, and children? Are they really aware of what's going on?
Yes, you know, I've been all over. I mean, I went to the mountains where you have you have people who, like the herd boys, who have a reputation of being very violent, usually, and committing gender-based violence on women, because the boy you saw on this report told me that he used to be a perpetrator, that's his word, of sexual violence, you know. Okay. But now he has been taught how to behave. And also going to UNFPA, LLPA, all those NGOs working with the United Nations are reaching out, as I said in the report, to the remote areas, and people are being really informed now. And you see that even in the streets, students tell me that things have been done.
Okay, Khalil, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Excellent reporting.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And my thanks to VOA's Khalil Gay for joining me in the studio. Now it's time for a short break, still to come on Africa 54. This tiny girl has a name fit for a princess. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines.
In Somalia, the top U.S. diplomat John Kerry makes a surprise visit, becoming the first sitting Secretary of State to visit the war-torn country. In the Central African Republic, the Reconciliation Forum in Bangui aims to restore peace in the CAR, which plunged into violence after a 2013 coup. In Guinea, more than 20 people are wounded in clashes between anti-government protesters and police in the country, the opposition says. finally, in Liberia, former U.S. President Bill Clinton visits regions where the Ebola epidemic has killed around 4,500 people.
That's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here is what's trending. Meet the new royal baby. Princess Charlotte Elizabeth Diana weighed in at a healthy 8 pounds 3 ounces at birth. The middle names hark to her great-grandmother, the current queen, and her paternal grandmother, Princess Diana, who died in 1997. Charlotte, a feminine form of Charles, is likely a nod to her grandfather, Prince Charles. Charlotte Elizabeth Diana is fourth in the line to the throne after Prince Charles, her father, Prince William, and her brother, Prince George. If Princess Charlotte is anything like her brother George, well, she's sure to launch new baby fashion trends. These Beverly Hills moms are turning to high-end boutiques and fashion-focused chains to ensure their child is on the cutting edge. This spring, fashion for the youngsters follows what's trending in adult wear, prompting a mini-me shopping experience. This season is all about floral prints and bright-colored patterns for girls and denim shorts and matching blue for boys. If Princess Charlotte takes after her brother, she'll be sporting a classic and very clean-cut look with a hint of innocence. And finally, believe it or not, a fashion and sports icon, David Beckham, is now 40 years old. Bex began his stellar soccer career with Manchester United before heading for Real Madrid and MLS side LA Galaxy, winning titles with all three clubs. As well as his successes on the pitch, Beckham has become an ambassador for soccer, promoting the sport around the world, being appointed UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador with a special focus on UNICEF's Sports for Development program. He was also an active member of the British Olympic Committee, successfully campaigning for the 2012 Olympics in London. And that's what's trending today. That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 300 and 600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching and good night from Washington.
I'm Michelle Joseph for Anglais Télé. This is VOA. Follow us at La Voix de l'Amérique. Go to lavoixdelamerique.com.
We are able to touch on things that are important to people on an everyday basis.
Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54.
In a lively half hour, news, sports, health, lifestyle information, comments from our viewers. Africa 54, the best for Africa, about Africa. Join us only on VOA.